Hello and welcome to Core Finance. I'm Matt Brown. I'm joined by Eddie Tofpik, who is Head of FX at ADMISI, and we're going to look at an old favourite, Bitcoin,
Yes.
or a new favourite if you want to call it that. This comes in the week of potentially the CME releasing or creating a futures contract, subject to obviously regulatory approval. Very interesting times for the Bitcoin.
It's a long time coming. I'm glad that somebody's taken effectively the bull by the horns and actually gone ahead and done it. They've had now for quite a while a reference rate which they're going to be using. The advantage of this, and I'm very, very pleased that CME are doing this, is that it allows people who would normally shy away a little bit from Bitcoin because of the reputational risk and all the other things involved with it, to be able to look at something. So actually we're going to now have a regulated proper exchange using this. It will be a cash settled future, so the P&L will be in, I imagine, dollars. It's against their own reference rate, so they'll be the ones who'll be looking out for it and making sure it's clean. It'll allow people such as potentially insurance companies, pension funds, institutional investors to expand and diversify into Bitcoin, where they've not really had the mandate to go ahead and do that. And I think this will probably then lead to maybe other things. Whether it will stop at Bitcoin and whether we're going to the other coins that are out there and tokens that are out there, I've yet to see. But let's get this one up and running, because I think this will be a flagship for the future. They're talking about before the end of the year. So we've got less than 2 months. Effectively, with all the things going on with MiFID II and everything else, I think they've really got about 6 weeks. And I think they can get it done, because it's going to be just a cash settled future. And they've got the reference rate to do it, they get the approval, and I think it'll be really, really good. And
just putting it out there, there's been various opinions with regards to Bitcoin, good, bad, or whatever. A few institutions have come out and said they're not particularly keen on Bitcoin, and maybe they're talking their own book. Now, having a futures contract and having access to the futures market now, would it mean that potentially some of these institutions could be short the future?
Yes.
And it could be an avenue for them to suppress the price?
Yes. I mean, in all things, change is not always necessarily appreciated. And this is blockchain and the technology behind it, plus Bitcoin, is a change to the market. How far it goes and how wide it is, we don't know yet. There is issues about the amount of ICOs, initial coin offerings, out there for anybody with the word, and we were talking off camera prior to this about a company that literally put the word blockchain in its title and suddenly the stock went shooting up. So there is that sort of .com euphoria about it a little bit. But this is something that's been going for quite a while, and the most interesting thing was the announcement date. It was 9 years, I think it was, to the day, or 7 years to the day, on the actual announcement of the initial put up for Bitcoin by Satoshi. So it's sort of like a nice synchronicity to it that actually came out on that specific date. I just do think it's going to allow a lot more people to have an interest in it. It probably helped the spurt in the market recently as well. As to how that will work with the underlying product itself, and what we'll see, whether the retail market, which is, or the Asian market, which is a big constituent, whether this will then move over to the CME, or whether they'll still carry on with their initial, literally the cash Bitcoin, I don't know. But the thing you allow is that with Bitcoin, you'll have an opportunity to margin as well. You won't have to put up the full value of it. So I mean, maybe that adds more to volatility of itself. But you'll be trading on margin effectively, which will allow you a little bit more opportunity in that, I think, as well, so that if you really wanted to go heavily short or long. And then the next thing obviously is options. That's the thing to watch out for after that. And then the other coins, whether they come on as well, and there might be arbitrage opportunities between those. But that's a long way ahead. Let's just get this first one up and running. Let's see how it works. I'd like to think it would do really, really well, because it's been a long time coming, and the market needed something like that.
Understood. It'd be interesting to see what the margin rates the CME sets for the contracts.
I should imagine they're pretty high. because the last thing you want is sort of huge amounts of margin calls going unpaid.
Exactly. Understood. But from a technical point of view, you know, bearing that all in mind and taking that fundamental changes in Bitcoin that we've seen this week, how does that feed through onto the chart? Well,
we've seen this action since July, September, which is this Andrew's pitchfork, which has been a great angle of attack of the market, most notably in late October, where it basically went up and down around the center tine, as you can see. It's now pushed higher. There's talk, it doesn't show on my chart, but there's talk somewhere it traded at 7,000.
Incredible.
Or just at 7,000. So considering that, you know, when I started looking at this, it was around $8 to it, and it's now sort of like $7,000. It's been a huge ride. It's not always been up. There's been some big pull downs, so that's the thing to bear in mind as well. The rally at this particular point, the breakout rally we've got, I mean, the top side resistance I've got at the moment is 73.45, which is the upper tine, plus this previous projected high resistance, which is at 69.85. And so that's where the resistance, 69.85, which is potentially now support, and then the next one after that is at 73.45. I drew this little internal channel line, if you like, between mid and end of October, and it occurred to me potentially this could be another halfway hesitation action, which we've seen quite a few of these in here. If that's the case, then you're looking on the break up, the final move up, which is the first leg September, mid-September through to early mid-October. If that's the case on this move up, then you're talking around about 8,200 as a target area for it, which is off the top of the chart. I'm not going to speculate on that. It's just there so that you can actually say this is where potentially it could move on this particular action if you view this as a halfway hesitation. The downside is if we get close, we really need a close down sub 4,500 to actually get anywhere near.
Seems a long way off.
Well, yeah, you're talking almost halving the price. But then, please bear in mind, in this sort of thing, we have seen sort of moves of 30% or so in a day. There's a lot of euphoria, there's a lot of buying. It's not, the recent activity in China has not killed off the appetite they have, and there's sort of a number of coin desks over there are starting to work their way around the Chinese regulation one way or another. I don't know if they will legally or not, but they're trying to. There's still demand in that part of the world for this, and it's been a lot of demand elsewhere for this. It's a store of value, it's a medium of exchange, it's a 21st century equivalent gold. This is now the next step in that route, which is the futures contract.
Super. On that note, Eddie, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.